don't know how to lock that.
Okay, so for this one, this is the component 1 feedback. Make sure you've got the paper ahead of you, in front of you. Otherwise it's going to be a bit difficult. So I'm going to start with the multi-choice section. So even if you got them right, it's probably worth just seeing the logic of each one. Yeah? So the first one, so you've got question 1. The first one is the market for potatoes is initially in equilibrium. At the same time as flood hitting potato growers, new research published into the health outcomes associated with eating crisps and chips, which is the following most likely outcome. Okay, so firstly we've got floods hitting potato growers. So supply shifts to the left, so we can rule out C and E. At the same time as health research, so we can so as a result, these are viewed as unhealthy, so demand is also shifting left. So that now leaves us with either A, or D. So the question is it impossible to tell, or is it the case that price falls? It's obviously going to depend on how much supply and demand change by. If you try now, you'd be able to shift supply and demand to get price the same, up or down. So therefore, the right answer is A. Question 2. This one was question 2. This one was frequently got wrong. And what we're looking for is, and this is the point where you've got to be really careful. What we're looking for is a statement of either total cost, total variable, or total fixed. So if you take A, the firm, which isn't the right answer, you take A, total costs are OQ1 times C2. OQ1 times C2 isn't anything, because C2 intersects with the average total cost at Q2. C2 times OQ2, that's total cost. Q1 times C2 is nothing. The firm's fixed costs are C1, C4, so the difference between C1 and C4 times Q1, that's true, because the gap C1, C4 is the gap between average total and average variable cost. Therefore, that's average fixed cost. So that gap there between C1 and C4 is average fixed cost, times Q1 gives you average total cost. If you look at the other ones, what's wrong with C? The total variable costs at Q2 are C3. That's not true, because that is just average variable cost. C3 is average variable cost. C3 times OQ2, that's total variable costs. D, the firm's total fixed costs are lower at Q2 than Q1. Well, no, that's not true, because total fixed costs are fixed. And the firm's total fixed costs are OQ2 times C2. As we said, that's actually total cost, not total fixed cost. So you just got to be careful with these things. You've got to read through them carefully. Highlighter pens are quite important. Question 3. Generally speaking, and this one I think pretty much everybody got right. So we got supply shifting to the right and demand shifting to the right. So what's going to cause? And it's all to do with mortgage interest rates and house building. So obviously a rise in house building shifts supply to the right, and a fall in interest rates means that the cost of getting out a mortgage is lower and increase the demand. So therefore, the right answer is A for that one: a fall in mortgage interest rates and a rise in house building. So that one's probably relatively straightforward. Question 4, good old tariff diagram. So diagram below shows the impact of a tariff imposed by the EU in an attempt to stop the alleged dumping of shoes by Chinese producers. And then we got a variety of possibilities. So what's the increase in producer surplus? So the original producer surplus, it's not identified by a letter, but it's the original producer surplus is that. The gap between the price that producers are willing to supply at, which is marginal cost shown by the supply curve, and the actual market price. As a result of the tariff, the price that EU producers can get is there, and therefore supply extends to that point. So producer surplus is now the entire of that area. Therefore, producer surplus rises by A plus B. So the right answer for that one is A. And the Laffer curve, we should know about the Laffer curve, so that's question 5. The Laffer curve, as we know, it's all to do with direct taxes, so it's taxes on income rather than indirect taxes, which is tax on expenditure. So that rules out B, C, and D because it's nothing to do with indirect taxes. And the question is, what does it say? And we know that it says that a change in tax rates, it might increase, it might decrease tax revenue depending on what's going on with incentives. So that means that the right answer to that one is E. Question 6, pretty much everybody got this one wrong. What we can see, so marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is the change in total revenue from an additional unit of output. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to find out the total revenue for 10 cards and the total revenue for 11 cards. So if we have 10 cards, what we know is that each card is 10p. 10 cards, so the total revenue is a quid. But what we know is that if we buy an 11th card, what happens is the price drops to 9p. So if a consumer comes in and buys 11 cards, the producer is now only getting 11 cards at 9p each, so they're getting a total revenue of 99p. Therefore, marginal revenue is actually minus 1p. When we sell 10 cards, we charge 10p each, so it's a quid. 11 cards, to do that, the price drops to 9p. So total revenue, therefore, is only 99p. So it's not a particularly smart strategy, this, from the point of view of the firm. Marginal revenue, in other words, is negative. Effectively, what's going on here is that price elasticity demand is inelastic. They cut price, and the increase in sales doesn't compensate. So the right answer for this one should be that marginal revenue is negative, which is D. So moving on to question 7, then which of the following policies would be most likely to reduce inequality? This one should be fairly straightforward. Essentially, we know that VAT is pretty regressive. So VAT impacts far more on low-income groups than it does on high-income groups. Therefore, a cut in VAT, that's the one that should reduce inequality. Some people are confused by the abolition of the zero-rated band. Some goods are zero-rated, so basic foodstuffs, children's clothes, you don't pay VAT, and published newspapers and things like that, you don't pay VAT on them at all. Abolishing that exemption would actually, again, increase, effectively, it amounts to increasing VAT. So the right answer is A, a cut in VAT. Normal profit. A lot of people were distracted by A, profit necessary to keep the firm in equilibrium. Equilibrium is simply a situation with no tendency to change, and as long as the firm's producing where MC equals MR, then they're going to be in equilibrium, but they could be making abnormal profit, especially if they're barriers to entry, and we're talking about oligopoly or monopoly. So the right answer is actually, if you go down to E, that's the one. That's its definition: the profit necessary to keep resources in their present use. I mean that's what it is. So it's the level of profit needed to keep factors of production in their current use. 9, 2 goods are produced domestically. Not that really matters. X and Y. It taxes X with the aim of discouraging consumption, and finances the production of Y because a price cannot be charged for it in the market. But if it's discouraging it, X, it must be a demerit good, so that leaves us with A and B. And it finances the production of Y because a price cannot be charged for it. That makes it a public good. It must be non-excludable. Merit goods are private goods. They can be provided through the market. It's just that they'll tend to be under-consumed, and that's why we prefer not to. So that one, therefore, is B. Okay, question 10. Question 10 is very difficult, and very, very few people got this one right. Because in order to get the right answer, you've actually got to rebase. You've actually got to work out the real wage in the second period. That's your key problem. So you can't just say this has gone up by this. This has gone. You can't just go the minimum wage has gone up by this percent. Inflation's gone up by that percent and subtract the two. That's not really the real increase. So what you have to actually do is to turn £6.95. You have to turn it into 1999 prices. So to do that, the way you do it is you multiply the current figure and you take it by the price index in the base year, the original year, divided by the price index in the current year. So it's £6.95 times 72 over 101.2. That gives you, I can't remember, I have to do it on the calculator now, sorry about this, 72.2 divided by 101.2 equals times 6.95. 6.95 equals, that's effectively £4.96 in 1999 terms. So what we can now say is that in 1999, the minimum wage was £3.60. In real terms, adjusted for inflation, it's gone up to £4.96. Therefore, we subtract one from the other. we can discover that the minimum wage has gone up by £1.36 compared with an original, so it's the change over the original of £3.60 times 100%. If we do that, then 1.36 divided by 3.6, 1.36 divided by 3.6 times 100 equals 37.7%, near enough. So when you're working out real terms, you need to actually rebase things. You need to put them into the prices of the relevant year before doing any percentage change calculations. Otherwise you're going to get the wrong answer. So all the others were distractors designed, for people who don't quite understand what's going on. 11 is a standard merit good diagram, and the person here's got the wrong answer. They've shaded in the very attractive looking LNP. The point is that the socially optimum level is where marginal social cost equals marginal social benefit, which is N. But we only, because demand is based on private benefit, only M are consumed. So had it been provided, if we'd been at the socially optimum level, then community surplus would have been the difference between marginal social benefit and marginal social cost. Unfortunately, we only consume M units, therefore the welfare loss. So we get community surplus of that level there, and therefore there's a welfare loss of whatever that is. I've obliterated it, LNK or KLN or whatever. We fail to get all of the surplus that we could. So watch out for that one. 12 is very straightforward. Very few people got this one wrong. Essentially, it's testing, do you understand what social costs and social benefits are? So it's testing, do you know that social costs are private costs plus external costs, and that social benefits are private benefit plus external benefit? So essentially, when you add it up, the private cost is 90 and the external cost is 30, that's 120. The external benefits 25 and private benefits 75, so that's 100. So the social cost is more than social benefits, so it's just A. Which of the following characteristic is a characteristic of a merit good? Again, this people are conflating, i.e. treating the same public and merit goods, which they're not. Merit goods are a private good. They can be provided through the market because they are excludable and they are diminishable. If you take a hospital, there are private hospitals. If you haven't paid, you can't come in. It's as simple as that. It's excludable and they're diminishable. There's only a certain number of beds in that hospital. Once somebody is in a bed, then that's it. That bed's being used. So the point about a merit good is they tend to be under-consumed. That's what that's exactly what that diagram shows. You go back to the rotten diagram and see what's going on. So what's going on is that they tend to be under-provided. So that's E. They're not provided by markets in sufficient quantities. Question 14, on the other hand, most people tend to get this one right. So the minimum wage is introduced, but employed people has actually gone up. So why is that? So it must be something that's done something good. So cuts in government spending would not create employment. Rising global oil prices, that would cause job losses. The global financial crisis, obviously, that caused job losses. Multinational businesses relocating abroad, that's no good either. That's going to cost jobs. Sustained growth in the UK economy, though, would mean that even though there's a minimum wage, demand would be rising for workers because of that growth, and therefore it would cancel out the negative effects on employment of the minimum wage. So that one's D. If we take 15, the person who did this has drawn in the diagram correctly. They've marked in their own supply curve. We can add in ST. The tax is the vertical distance between the supply lines. Effectively, the consumer pays the top section because that's the increase in price from the consumer's point of view. The producer pays the bottom box, which is the reduction in price to the producer. Hence, the consumer pays more than the producer. So on these things, it's usually a good idea to sketch and draw diagrams of your own, to try and work out the answers. Okay, turning to question 16. On this one, the most common wrong answer was A, house prices rose throughout, because if you look at the first quarter of 2015, they dropped from an index of 377 to 376. in fact, in fact, the right answer is B. House prices rose by approximately 3% in the second quarter of 2015. If you bother to work it out. A common other answers that people put that were wrong. They put D. House prices rose by 32.2% between 2014 and 2015. Yeah, the difference is 32.2 index points, but the percentage change is just under 10%. Yeah, because it's change divided by the original. House prices were 387.5% higher in 2015 than they were in the base year. That's not true. They're 287% higher. Yes, if it had gone from 100 to 200, that would be 100%. 100 to 300 is 200%, and so on. So watch out for that. Big percentage changes. So if something doubles, that's 100%. Yeah, so you've got to be careful. So they have gone up by 3.87 times, but they've only gone up by 287%. 17. I meant to remove this multiple choice question because it's actually too hard. The way most people did it, is they simply went. There's a 30-cent change, a 20% fall in price. 30 out of 150. Exports have risen by 6 out of 30. So that's 20%, and giving you -1. That's fine. If you did something clever and got a different answer, then you know who you are, and I know what you did. I'm not going to explain it on this video. This one's saying why has so this is the dollar exchange rate. Why has the dollar gone up? As we know, one of the key factors driving the exchange rate is interest rates. So what we're really looking for is rising US interest rates. Rising interest rates in China, obviously that would mean people would sell dollars. QE in the US, effectively they were printing money in the United States. That's not gonna, that's not going to cause the dollar to appreciate. It's going to put downward pressure on interest rates. Create inflation risks. People will sell dollars. Higher trade deficit, that means more imports. So again, and a cut in US base rates. That's not going to be it. Increased US bond yields, though, that is. That's interest rates, isn't it? That's the return that you can get on lending to the US government. So if bond yields increase, more people are likely to want to lend money to the American government, a priori. Therefore, the demand for dollars goes up, therefore the exchange rate rises. 19, if the social cost is higher than the private cost, then, and lots of people drew wrong diagrams here, this one's right. Because remember, the cost is measured on the vertical axis. So social cost higher than private cost. Supply is based on the private cost. The welfare loss triangle is wrong, but the marginal social cost is above the marginal private cost by the amount of the external cost. And what that means is that the free market price, where supply equals demand, is going to be below what would be the socially optimum level. So basically the price is too low. Because they're external costs, these external costs are ignored by consumers and producers, and the resulting price is too low. And finally, question 20 on the multi. This one's fine. So what the main wrong answer that people put here is they put plus 0.5, which is wrong. And the reason is that the exchange rate's gone down. So by 20%, it's gone from 150 to 120, and the volume of imports has fallen by 9 out of 90, so that's 10%. So the percentage change in quantity demanded is minus 10%. But of course, the decrease in the exchange rate leads to an increase in the price of imports. So what you should have is the percentage change in price of imports is plus 20%. The percentage change in demand is minus 10%. So that gives you price elasticity demand of minus 0.5. Right, that's the end of the multi-choice. To avoid this video getting too big, I'm going to pause there and I'll do the short answers in a minute.